This time around, we're playing Freedom Planet for the PC. Freedom Planet was developed by Galaxy Trail and released in 2014 to Steam Store, after a successful Kickstarter campaign stretching along 2011 to 2013. As it's a commercial entity and clearly Galaxy Trail's IP, but it started development as a Sonic the Hedgehog game. Weird, right? Well, maybe not as weird as I let on. Of course, the game largely seems to take inspiration from other games, such as Rocket Knight Adventures and Alien Soldier. Yeah, so this is basically Shovel Knight for Sega Genesis. Shovel Knight is globally praised and hailed as a near-perfect love letter to the NES days of old, and Freedom Planet is just like that, except for the Sega Genesis. A lot of what could be said about Freedom Planet's design could be said for 2D Sonic as well. The speedy running of 2D Sonic used to be a hindrance because of the screen resolution not being widened. This usually meant the camera view had no sense of peripheral vision, and you'd run into spikes or an enemy without having the time to react. In the more recent Sonic games and remakes of the Genesis ones, Sega ensured the same general scales of sprites are applied to a widescreen resolution, granting lots of time to see ahead of Sonic. And in Freedom Planet, it's the same deal, and on top of that wider screen, Freedom Planet is slowed down just enough to grant even more reaction time. No enemy or pit placement ever feels cheap, and that feels great. While Freedom Planet performs this stuff beautifully, we're going to talk about the game's absolute biggest strength. Its set pieces. Everyone's hit that moment in a game where it becomes totally different and your only reaction is, "Oh god! Okay, we're doing this now." It's the moment in a game where everything becomes completely different for the sole reason of catching a player off guard and wowing them at the same time. That's a set piece. The term was originally used in theater talk, as those cardboard cutouts that act as a background prop to establish a setting. So picture this situation, okay? Set pieces are all about creative situations that differ from the norm. You're playing a game that just feels like a standard, well-made Genesis platformer, when all of a sudden, this big robot comes tearing after you. You're pulled into a Mach-speed boss fight as the robot pursues you, launching lasers and guns to topple your performance. In the distance, you see two of your friends in an airplane, and they occasionally fly into the foreground, dropping down health to replenish yourself every now and then as you continue to both fight and outrun the mechanical beast. You had a third friend, though. Where could she— Whoa! She just flew in on a f***ing motorcycle! Holy shit! Look at this situation right now. This set piece, and it's existing before you right now, in this game called Freedom Planet. This is why so many of us became interested in video games when we were kids. The set pieces, the scenarios the game offered us, they were just so cool! We're a dinosaur on the run from bad guys with a baby on our back as this giant dragon thing walks at us from the background. We're monkeys in a minecart. We're running through San Francisco, being pursued by a truck that takes up 2 lanes in both sidewalks! The set piece is so incredibly important for video games because it generates thoma. Thoma is an emotional connection you establish with a game, deriving from the term thaumaturgy. Thaumaturgy, meaning the capacity for saints to work magic or miracles. It's that indescribable joy and wonder we feel when we're truly connected and fascinated by a game. An indescribable, euphoric event. Freedom Planet is the core definition of how you deliver a set piece, and thus is a game that clearly defines Thoma. It's truly amazing how well such a small-scale game performs in this regard. Have you ever wanted to be on a 3-hour-long roller coaster? This is all you need. Happy now? Take it! Just look at this! How cool is this? You're running at high speeds while a boss chases you, and your buddies are in the background throwing health to you every now and again, while another buddy flies in on a f***ing motorcycle to help fight off the robot! If you don't think that's the hypest thing ever, you have no soul. When you're reciting parts of an old game you played as a kid, you always start with something to the effect of, "Oh man, remember that part when..." The part in that sentence is the set piece, and that nostalgia is simply thoma that never wears off. It's all behavioral science. Set pieces, however, do have drawbacks. Only 2 big ones, but they nevertheless exist. Set pieces that contain these setbacks aren't necessarily bad, but perhaps the thoma they instill in players is less unanimous. Set pieces should be surprising, but never jarring. It's a fine line to explain, and it's hard to outline exactly what pushes one over the edge. but it's nonetheless something that detracts from the experience. Usually when a set piece is too far off from the core gameplay is when it's usually bad. We'll normally see this in a lot of games that include those pointless mini-games. Those are set pieces, but we're not impressed by them. A set piece, naturally, is also bad if it's sloppily made. If the set piece somehow keeps the player from attaining a wide-eyed grin and wonder about the situation it offers, then the set piece probably fell flat. This is a completely subjective aspect of design, so the best the devs can do is make something they would think is cool and impressive. Developers have to accept that they won't please everyone with their set piece, though. Sly Cooper games attempt a remedy by making a game full of novelties. Every new area brought along new mechanics and boss fights with different controls. Games like this and Conker's Bad Fur Day are so chock full of set pieces that their scattergun approach ensures at least certain segments will become memorable favorites. The strength is also the downside, though. The segments of the respective games also tend to be inconsistent, or hit or miss altogether. Still, Freedom Planet, if nothing else, thrives on the fact that it presents crazy situations in a seamless fashion. Bosses come and go at random, appear later in future stages, enemies and bosses pop up when you least expect them to, end stage results screens get interrupted by continuations of cutscenes. It's a game that picks up the momentum and throws in set pieces at a pace that keeps it from slowing. In that respect, Freedom Planet absolutely does Sonic better than Sonic, and that constant inertia is exactly why you've gotta play this. Thanks for watching. Hello, viewer! Welcome back to Endslate. It's the minute or two I get with you. Sorry if my intonations sound a bit weird during this Endslate. This is actually the first time I've actually done any vocal work for the channel today, because for most of the day, as of recording this Endslate, I've just been recording and compiling everything for this YGPT that you are now watching in its finished state. You guys would also know, as of this week, that Shantae and the Pirate's Curse is over, so wow, man, we're really moving forward into a whole new era of channel. Not really, but you know, I try to make it sound exciting in some way. Hope you enjoyed this one, viewer. I always make sure to take reception from YGPTs to heart, and last week I felt the general consensus was maybe the topic was too broad, or the last few weeks or whatever. Too broad, a little too hard to really understand and picture in people's heads. So I decided to go the complete opposite route and go for something that I think is very relatable and very easy to understand. And I think everyone can kind of pull an example of a set piece they've really enjoyed from one of their favorite games. Because I think the set piece at the end of the day is probably the reason why we have favorite games and stuff like that. It's always that thing that stands out. Anyway, we're gonna end this off here. Thank you so much for watching. Check out the previous YGPT on Splatoon. And here's another video of a YouTube user named Matt Lees riffing on EA's E3 conference. He's done all the other companies, but it's so easy to shit on EA, and it's so funny.